Hi, and welcome back to Psychology with Mr. Snyder. And today we're beginning Unit 3 and going over Developmental Psychology. And I don't anticipate a very long lesson, so let's begin. Your learning targets for this afternoon are analyze why and how psychologists study development. So essentially, why do we do this? Why are we studying this? And why is this a part of psychology? Analyze both the concepts of hereditary and environmental contributions to the development process. And then we'll talk about the other main controversy in developmental psychology about whether or not development occurs as stages or a continuous process, and that still goes on to this day. Developmental psychology is basically the study of how people change and grow and develop. There's that key word. Throughout the lifespan. So psychologists study the human being from conception until their death, and so that's a very wide range. This chapter will be talking about child psychology. Chapter 11 is teenager psychology, and chapter 12 is adult psychology. And psychologists use actually three methods, but we'll talk about two to study people across their lifespan, and those would be the ones we've already covered. The longitudinal method, in which researchers select a group of people and then observe them over a period of time, and years or decades, and the cross-sectional method, where we select a sample that includes people of different ages and then compare those different age groups. And then there is the cross-sequential method, which is basically a combination of the two. I'll leave it at that. The two areas that developmental psychologists are concerned with are ways that hereditary and environmental influences play into a person's development, and then whether or not development occurs gradually or in stages. But let's talk about the first one, nature versus nurture. We kind of took a look at this in our biology study, and people used to think that it was only one or the other. I think psychologists have generally accepted the fact that it's both that occurs or influences how a person develops. So for example, was he born that way, or was he just developing that way? And the answer is it's probably a little bit of both. He had a certain predisposition to behave the way he did, and his environment brought those characteristics to the forefront. But now the main controversy in psychology is how much of which affects a person's development. Maturation is a key word you got to know, and it's just like the word mature, root word of mature, but it's the automatic and sequential process of development that results from genetic signals. So that pituitary gland, part of your endocrine system in your brain, the master gland, which controls all the other glands and tells them what to do, those are maturation, and that helps you develop. Now, another key term is a critical period. And a critical period is a point in a person's life where the person is best suited to learn a particular skill or behavior pattern. So for example, kids, little kids, 2-3 years old, are great at learning languages. That is the best time of your life to learn a language. The longer you wait, even into adulthood, it becomes more and more difficult for a person to learn a second language. And so that's why if a person is bilingual, they usually grew up knowing two languages and using two languages in the home, because that is the critical period for development. There's also a biological critical period where certain phases of a mother's pregnancy, the certain parts of the body of the baby develop, and that is critical periods for those organs. And two people, Arnold Geisel proposed that maturation is the most important role in development, and John Watson, however, the father of behaviorism, would favor and say that we are a blank slate when we're born, and everything is a result of learning and reinforcement. Lastly, psychologists debate on whether or not development happens in stages or whether it is a continuous process. As in, think of stages as a steps and continuous as a straight line, upward line. And so developmental psychologists debate this because we don't know. It's two theories, and either one could be correct. We're going to be learning about Jean Piaget's theories of cognitive development in children, and he is one of the most famous stage theorists. He says that children go through 4 distinct stages from their birth all the way up until the age of 18. And other psychologists, including Flavel and Watson, of course, argue that cognitive development is a gradual and continuous process, and we add to it every single day. And here is a review of development in stages and continuous development. And so let's review and define developmental psychology. Try to read the definition to yourself or saying it out loud without even looking at the page or looking at your notes. The field in which psychologists study how people grow and change throughout the lifespan. And then your 2 key definitions here define maturation and critical period. Maturation is the automatic and sequential process of development that results from genetic signals, and a critical period is a stage or a point during which a person is best suited to learn a particular skill or behavior pattern. And that's all I have for you today. I will see you in class tomorrow. Have a great night. Bye-bye.